Building a great profile, by very nature of exhibiting a more professional view of you, of your experience, of your work history, and then secondarily by getting more and more work and working with more and more clients, this is really just going to help you over time raise your rates faster. And this is the name of the game, right? We're here to do great work and to earn money, and over time you'll be able to earn even more. And much of that starts with building a great profile. Some of what we already touched upon is attracting more clients. Clients are looking for professionalism, they're looking for cleanliness, they're looking for completeness, and your profile exhibits much of that. And then obviously you'll be able to grow your business faster. We're here to help you really become successful. We want you to build your business on the UpWork platform, and this is one first start to help you do that. Similarly, the advantages of having a standout proposal aren't that very different. Again, this is we've already, let's say, assumed that we've stood out in the form of our profile. Well, now the next step, the next challenge that we have is to stand out amongst the candidates that a client is evaluating. And much of that evaluation happens at the proposal stage. So we've crossed through the first door, now we're at the second door, and we're really looking to get noticed, and a good proposal can help you with that. Good proposals can also help you expand your opportunities to move outside of your core skill set, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes here. Obviously, landing more projects is going to help you grow your business over time, similar to what we saw in the last slide. And by building great proposals, you'll find that over time, as you get invited to more and more projects, you're really going to be spending less connects. There's going to be fewer instances in which you need to go out and solicit that business. You need to go out and submit those proposals, and you'll find that by virtue of building a great reputation, those invitations will start coming your way. So let's dive into profiles first. We're going to start with the picture area, and we love this slide here because these two pictures that we're looking at, these two images, very friendly, certainly people that I want to hang out with, but probably not the most professional view of these two individuals. Compare that with what we see on this picture, and this is really a couple of great examples of what an actual profile picture, what your profile picture should look like on your UpWork profile. Both of them have a friendly, welcoming facial expression. We've actually heard and seen over time that clients do prefer, somewhat of a smile on your face there. The really serious look doesn't foster a feeling of someone that they'd like to work with and really a great rapport. So you do want to be smiling in your picture. A clean, simple background, preferably something like this where it's a light blue. It's a really clean color. A head to torso image. So you don't want a full body shot. You don't want a picture of yourself where there's three other people hanging around. You're hanging out with your friends. Getting back to the first point, you don't want the sunglasses or the hat on. Think of this as your professional self. What do you want a client to consider you as you're putting that lens on? Color photos tend to work best. Now we know that particularly in design and multimedia, I see a lot of artists will use black and white photos, and while certainly artistic in their own right, they don't really come off that well on the UpWork site. So a clear color photo is much more preferred. And certainly professional attire. Again, I mentioned the hats and the sunglasses. Might be reflective of what you think is really your true personality. It's your professional personality. It's your professional self that you're looking to exhibit here. The title section is also really important. This is going to be what in many instances is going to engage prospective clients, not only because they're skimming past these and seeing your title, but also because those titles are factoring into the keywords that they're searching for and the search results that they're coming up with. So as much as possible, that title should be concise and should clearly highlight what you do. You can also combine two areas if that's appropriate. And this is, you see in this first example here for Alexander, that he does a really good job of combining two unique skill sets, but into a short concise title, Web UX/UI designer. So if there are two varying skills and two varying work roles that you are specialized in, then you can certainly feel free to add them and just, like I said, kind of combine them and condense them as much as possible. But it should be simple, it should be clear, it should very directly state what type of work you do. The skills area is also really important. Again, think of it from a client point of view. Number one, they're going to be searching in many instances for these skills, these keywords. They're going to be looking for Adobe Photoshop. They're going to be looking for email management, calendar management, research, virtual assistant. And you see in this example here, those are exactly the skills that have been highlighted by this freelancer. So as you get to your own skills section, begin typing a skill, and you'll see that we'll pre-populate or give you some suggestions there that you can select from. It's really about picking the right words. You know, these really matter. So only pick those that you are most proficient in. If you have some experience working in WordPress, but you excel working in another programming language or for another blog type, you want to certainly lead with the one that you excel in. If it's, you know, working in JavaScript, but you're also a Python programmer might be more unique, might be more sought after, might be what you're really putting your skills and your effort behind. Lead with that. Pick the ones that you're most proficient in. Certainly look to pick skills that can be validated through direct work experience or education experience. You know, if you have skills that that you're looking to add to your profile, but you've never done any work around it, or you are just starting to dabble in Camtasia recording, for example, it might be too soon to put that as one of your skills. So pick the ones that you have some jobs that you can point to, you have some education, whether it's certification or other training that you've done, really evidence that you can show a client, hey, I'm not just saying I like this skill or I want to do this skill, I actually know this skill and I have the experience to prove that. We also recommend sticking to 3 to 5 core skills. Now you can certainly add more if there's more that you're really good at and that you have experience in. But what we're saying here is really, you don't want to be extending past 10, 15 skills where, you know, the truth of the matter is you have some familiarity with this information, but you're truly not skilled at it. It's not where your experience lies. It's not what you're good at. The overview section is really important. You know, if you go to any of your own profiles today, you'll see your overview section is one of the first things that a potential client will see as well. And the reason why we really place importance on this is this provides you the opportunity to add more color and to add more context around your skills, around the title, and around the work that you do. So if we go back to Alexander's case, for example, his title was UX UI designer. Well, his overview could add much more information around what that means and where his experience lies in those two roles. Why is he both a UI UX designer? You know, what type of work has he done for potential clients that have helped them grow their own business or help them meet their deliverables that he can really point to? The overview section is also great because you're not just putting keywords in there, you're actually describing yourself in your own words, so you can show some personality there. This first point's really important though. You know, you don't want to overdo it. Don't hard sell or be really gimmicky or have unorthodox language. You know, things like programming language that only someone in your field would know. You probably want to stay away from that. You know, really overly simplistic language that is just, you know, coming off like an advertisement. It's not really what you're trying to do here. You're trying to give a professional overview of what you do and who you are. Arrange your points in a logical sequence, and you know, certainly having some bullet points is okay, but we actually recommend providing some context around that, and you know, having a couple of paragraphs or something that's going to help, you know, provide a more complete picture of what you do, and not just, like I said, not just a couple of keywords. Full sentences are recommended. Certainly double check it and make sure there's no spelling or grammatical errors. And you want to avoid jargon as much as possible. What that means is language that's really overly specific to what you do and that would not make sense to a client who is not an expert. Remember, you're the expert in what you do. The client might not be. So you don't want to overdo it with that type of language that only you or someone in your field would understand. And then kind of getting towards the end of the profile here, your education, certifications, past work history, all of these areas are really important. I encourage you to fill them out. You know, what you're doing here is providing even more evidence, even more proof to a potential client who has never met you, who really doesn't know if you truly have these skills and this work experience, who might be a little bit nervous about handing over their money and their projects to someone whom they've never met. And by filling out these sections, what you're doing is you're showing history, you're showing experience to potential clients. You're telling them, I've been there, I've done that, I know how to do these things, and here's some of my success stories. And the portfolio area is certainly an area you should take advantage of. You want to include and make sure you're updating it with examples of your best past work. You know, one thing that I often get from freelancers as well, you know, I'm just starting out in doing some Photoshop work, and you know, I've done a ton of training around this. I've really understood the software, but I haven't actually sold many projects yet. That's okay. If you have some items in your own portfolio, maybe things that you've worked on as you've tested and really refined your skills, you can add those to your portfolio as well. So that's fine. Certainly the preference is if this is work that you've sold and work that you've done for clients, that's the preference, because then you could point to jobs where that work was deliverable. You can include more of a description around that and what you did in that role versus just simply having an example there. One thing that often gets missed too is coming back to this, and you see that last bullet here. Make sure you come back to your portfolio as you complete more jobs, as you get more examples that you can showcase. You know, this is not one of those areas that you should just set and forget. It's a little bit different from education, right? The education section, if you're done with your education, that's probably not going to change too much. So you could probably leave that for a while. But your portfolio hopefully is something that's continuing to evolve, something that you're continuing to get more information that you can add here. So always come back to this and make sure that it's up to date. Obviously make sure your examples are working, but certainly that it's continuing to show the best work that you do. And then something that we've recently added to some of the best practices that we started sharing is really videos. I mentioned the top rated program at the beginning of this presentation, but you know, one of the things that we started to see with a lot of top rated freelancers is they were adding introduction videos. And this is a feature that you'll see on your own profile page. This is really a great opportunity to introduce yourself and briefly speak to your career. What you're doing here with the introduction video is adding more personality, helping knock down that barrier of anonymity that a client might otherwise have. Right now you're putting a face to it. You're saying, hey, here's who I am. Here's how I communicate. Here's a little bit about me. Now we're not talking about a 5-10 minute, you know, God forbid, 15-minute video that tells a client everything about you, but instead really a brief 2-minute introduction that shows them who you are, and again, lets you bring a little personality to the table. The video isn't just ending with you saying, okay, that's who I am, thank you very much. No, what you should be asking for is really asking the clients to take some action. Contact me now for an interview and find out how I can do your job really effectively. Check out the rest of my profile. You'll find some interesting items in my portfolio. You're trying to push the clients to do something. You're trying to push them, most importantly, to read your proposal and to interview you or to invite you. Okay, let's touch on proposals and a little bit more about how you can really maximize that. Before I do that, actually, one thing that I should cover is again, you're here for a reason. We invited you because we do see a lot of good work being done, and we're really hoping to just help you improve these areas even more. Getting back to the profiles, you know, one thing that we noticed is in looking through many of the registrants, the profiles aren't fully completed. You know, we're not at 100% completion stage. And remember that that's a key part of being a top-rated freelancer. And those are the important, really key areas of that are what we just covered. We're going to do the same here for proposals in a minute. Again, I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that there's really a couple of stages where you're competing against other freelancers. And one is at the profile, another is at the proposal stage. And the way to think about the proposals and the profiles is this is all one combined concerted effort that you're making to win business and to do great work. So it should be consistent, and this is really more than anything, the proposal is an extension of your profile. You're taking that introduction that you made in your profile. You're taking that trust that you started to build in your profile, and you're taking it one step further in your proposal. So keeping that in mind, we're taking the skills that we've already listed, that we already showed examples of, that we already highlighted in our portfolio, and we're expanding on them here in our proposal. Now that doesn't mean repeating them. So in Alexander's case, he's not starting or having in his proposal saying, hi, I'm a UX UI designer. We already know that. Instead, in Alexander's proposal, what we're probably going to see is, here's some more examples of my work as a UI UX designer. Here's how I would approach your project for some design work. Here's the experience that I would take to make your design even better. So it's really describing additional details around those skills, more information around your approach to this type of work, more information specifically about how you're going to do this type of work for this specific client. Second bullet point is very similar. This gives you, the proposal gives you the freedom to add more detail. It also gives you the freedom and the opportunity to show off your communication skills. So we started a little bit of that in our profile video, right? But now we're showing it in written form. We're showing clients, here's how I communicate. It's clear. It's answering your questions. It shows that I can do this and I can communicate very effectively with you for the lifespan of the project itself. And then this last point I touched on already a little bit, but this isn't, you're not just simply asking the hiring manager, hey, hire me so you can pay me and so I can get this work done. Instead, in this proposal, you should be really taking the opportunity to show hiring managers, show these clients what you can do for their specific job. And this all gets to the whole notion of customizing your proposal, which is something we'll touch on a little bit later as well. But clients are looking for that standout. They're looking for that freelancer who has really understood their project and is going to do something special for them. Now, something special is completing that work and doing a great job at it. But that's really the mentality that we're looking to take here is, hey, I'm looking to do some great work for you, and here's how. And the here's how part is really a big part of what we talk about in this section, which is it's really critical to think about your proposal as a new endeavor each time. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have an overall framework that you're working around. And we're very careful here with the way we describe this as a framework and not a template. Because in many cases, a template implies you're going to have the same proposal that you're going to share over and over on 5 different jobs. But the truth is, it should be 5 different proposals with the same overall framework, the same overall format. So yes, I'm always going to have my introduction. So these first 2 sentences might be pretty similar. But then I'm going to talk about my understanding of this job and this client's objectives. Then I'm going to talk about my approach to this project or these types of projects. And then I'm going to include my experience, but not just simply my experience as a freelance worker, but more importantly, my experience that relates to this job that I'm applying for, that I'm submitting a proposal for. So you see, we have an overall framework that we're going to follow. We're always going to have these 4 or 5 points. You might have others. But within those sections, you're customizing that content, you're customizing that approach so that it makes sense for this specific job that you're submitting a proposal for. The second bullet point covers the same thing, which is stock, or what we call copy and paste proposals. Those are the ones which are going to lose. If you're using the same proposal over and over again, in most cases, this really is not the recommended approach, and is more than likely to get passed over. Again, explain exactly why you are applying for this job, why you want to work for this client. And then finally, the last point is just show some energy and some enthusiasm for getting started. We don't want to be too stuffy and kind of direct about how we're planning to do this work. It's still important to show that personality. It's still important to build that rapport and open the door for the client to show them that, hey, yeah, I'm really excited about doing this work for you. I think this project is awesome. This is right up my alley. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about it. Tell a story with your work history. Oftentimes what we see is just a couple of examples of, okay, here's 3 or 4 jobs that I've done. Go check them out. It should be a little bit more than that. You're really looking to highlight how not only your experience, but your projects have really grown over time. So yes, I have these 4 or 5 jobs that you can take a look at, but to give you a little bit more of an understanding, client, here's what type of impact these jobs had for my clients. So I helped take this one client from 500 page views a week to 3,000 page views a week with these updates that I helped make to their landing page. Or I managed this email campaign for this client, and we went from a 2% opt-in rate to a 10% opt-in rate in 4 or 5 weeks, making some updates to the copy, some updates to the design, and other updates to the way it was implemented. Or I've worked in customer support for the past 3 years. I've never been below a 95% satisfaction rate from customers rating my tickets. Showing some more detail around these things, and not only showing the type of results that you've had, but also how this has grown over time. So an example is, hey, I started off as a CS, a customer support representative. Now I manage, as a team lead, I manage 4 or 5 customer support reps. Let me get working for you to help you set up your customer support team. So again, showing that evolution, that growth in your own experience, the type of jobs that you've taken on. We already talked about in the profile really focusing on your key skills. That doesn't change here. You want to really choose 3 or 4 core skills that you want to focus on. Certainly sharing examples is really great, particularly ones that are relevant to this job that you're submitting a proposal for. And then, another key and really important point for many clients is that you have some activity and some experience in UpWork, and you're all here because you do. So reflect that in your proposal. Let them know how long you've been on UpWork. Yes, they can see much of this information on your profile already, but many clients are new to this, and they want to pick a freelancer who not only knows how to do this work, but who's also going to help them navigate this whole experience of working online and working on UpWork. Just in terms of some of the terminology that you can or should use, and certainly some of the stuff that you should avoid, you don't want to be overly formal, and you see some of those items in red that are probably terms that we would stay away from. Hello, sir, ma'am, yours faithfully, to whom it may concern. There's nothing, those aren't bad terms to use, but they're overly professional. You're right. There is a balance there between being professional but also being approachable, and that's what this next point is about. It's really sounding approachable but professional. So you see some of the terms in black are things that we would recommend, like dear hiring manager, thank you for posting a job, I'm excited to learn more, I understand firsthand, I'd highly recommend. Some of those things are pretty good terms and ways of describing this. Avoiding colloquialisms or jargon, and I apologize if I've used some of those through this presentation, but what we're talking about here is really speaking in a manner, or communicating, writing in a manner that's going to make sense to clients from all over the world. And not only in terms of English language proficiency, but also in terms of someone who might not be an expert in JavaScript programming, or someone who might not be an expert in search engine marketing. Think about that, be relatable, certainly show your expertise, but you don't want to overdo it with that type of terminology. And then get the conversation going. Your proposal is a way to take that next step with the client. We want them leaving this proposal or this communication with you wanting more and wanting to talk to you about that. So you're looking to start the conversation, in some cases to start the negotiation. So have that conversation, let them know, contact me for further information. Here's my proposal, but I'm open to negotiation. Let's talk a little bit more about these 3 points so I can understand truly if this is the right budget for you. Asking for an interview is certainly recommended. You want them, once you got that interview, you've got that hook, right? Now we have that conversation going, and you're going to shine at that point. And then this is just an example of responding to an invitation in which it might not be a formal or full-blown proposal that you're delivering, but just simply a response or a reply to that invitation. But again, you're looking to open that door, you're looking to get that conversation moving even more forward. Okay, so let's stop for some takeaways, and then we're going to open it up for some questions for all of you. As we get back to the profile section, as we're thinking about that, there's really something to be said for being consistent. Being consistent with and it's not only strong, but professional. Professional profile picture, professional and concise title, professional overview, and certainly those skills that you are a professional at. Remember that completing your profile, not only are we looking to get top rated, because yes, that's a great achievement to have, but you're looking to establish and build some trust and confidence with someone who you've never met. And the profile is a great way to do that when you do it completely, and certainly add to all those sections. Don't set it and forget it. Come back to your profile, keep it updated regularly. Your overview may change as more responsibilities grow, as you have more work experience. Your education could change. I know I said for some of you it might not, but as you get more training or certification, you're going to want to come back to those sections. Your portfolio certainly will change over time. Your profile picture even is something that, it's nice to refresh on occasion. So certainly look to come back and keep that profile updated regularly. On the proposals, it's really about customizing those proposals and having a unique approach for each job and each client. Remember, there's a framework that you can and should have so that you can more quickly and easily write these proposals, but that's really what it is. It's not a template. It's not something you're going to copy and paste into every job that you're submitting a proposal for. So it should be customized towards a job and a specific client. Build a story around your work history, not only by telling clients what you've done, but also what difference that's made for the clients that you've worked with in the past. So I helped grow their business from this to this, or I achieved these results from this to this. Here's the growth that I had. Those all help make a difference. Be professional and friendly. Open that door to further communication and conversation with the client. And take a second look. I know there's a rush to get proposals in fast in many instances, but you'll do yourself many favors by just going back, proofreading it, making sure there's no errors in there, and continue to also evolve these. So see what type of response you get from these proposals. Are clients contacting you for interviews? Are they negotiating with you after your proposals? Well, those are all good signs. If you run into a dry spell and you're not getting any reaction from your proposals, well, maybe it's time to take another look at your approach there and see if there's something that can be updated.